If you're doing 7 or 8 figures in annual revenue with a D2C subscription business, you've already figured out the fundamentals when it comes to Klaviyo and your email and SMS marketing. You've got your pop-up form set up, you've got your flows running, you're sending campaigns, and you've probably even ran a few A/B tests along the way. But here's what I've noticed when I've worked with subscription CPG brands at your level. The difference between a subscription business that's stuck at $20 million and one that's scaling past $50 million easily is not the product market fit. The difference lies in subscription infrastructure optimization. And just to be clear, I know exactly where you're sitting right now, and here's what's actually happening. You are very busy running a real business. So between inventory management, paid ads, operations, and team management, subscription optimization just does not feel like the most urgent thing on a day-to-day basis. But those small gaps in your subscription program compound into massive differences in profit over a 12-month period. At the scale that you're at, a single percentage point in churn is literally worth tens of thousands of dollars in revenue each month. So after working with over 45 e-commerce brands and driving over $60 million in email and SMS revenue, what I can tell you is that there's always something that you can be doing better. There's no way that right now you are completely optimized in every area of your business. There's an easy assumption to make, which is that if MRR is trending up and churn looks okay, then everything's under control and it is what it is. But the truth is that when you look at MRR and churn, there are about 100 variables under the hood that are influencing those numbers every single day. So in this full in-depth course, I'm going to be walking through the complete playbook, how to structure your acquisition offers that drive subscriptions at scale, how to build pre and post-purchase flows that actually move subscription rates, how to strategize and build your pre-purchase flows in order to increase your subscription opt-in rate, how to build post-purchase flows that reduce churn, how to read your cohort data so that you're fixing churn before it actually compounds, and how to understand what's actually going on in your subscription platform that can directly tie into your strategy and your actions that happen inside of Klaviyo that 90% of subscription brands do not even know about, let alone implement. This is exactly how I would think about optimizing your brand's subscription program if I took over as your lifecycle marketing manager tomorrow. So let's get into it. All right, so first up, let's talk about subscription acquisition offers. When it comes to your ability to scale your subscription program and improve it, it all stems from the offer. You need to have a really strong offer in order to get your customers to choose to start a subscription instead of placing a one-time purchase order. And again, this is something that most brands just gloss over. They pick a standard subscribe and save 20% off, which, don't get me wrong, could be a good offer, but they don't run tests on it and understand how big of a lever a better offer can be. So this is all going to start with your pop-up form. And what's really important to note here, and I'm sure you have seen this with other brands that you've spied on, the offer that you're going to have on your pop-up form can either be an offer that is related to a first purchase, so sign up and get 10% off your first order. We can make the conscious choice to only offer that acquisition offer for a new email and SMS subscriber based on an offer that is only applicable for subscription. So if your standard subscribe and save offer is 20%, then maybe when someone subscribes to email and SMS, they can get 25% off their first subscription order and they don't get an offer for a one-time purchase order. And one more thing that I want to add in here is that a lot of brands, again, just treat subscription as a nice to have, as a, well, if someone wants to subscribe, they'll do it. So just when we think about the CRO website landing page side of things, a lot of brands on their product pages don't default to subscription. They default the checkbox to a one-time purchase. And this is a simple optimization that you can make if you're in this situation. See what happens when you default that option to a subscribe and save. If your assumption is that more people will place subscription orders, then you are right. This is something that we have tested in the past, and the data proves that more people will start subscription orders if you default to that subscribe and save option. So it's important to think about your subscription offer through the lens of making it really clear to your website traffic wherever it lands. So if your traffic from ads is going to a landing page, if it is going to a product page, or if they're just going to a homepage and we're going to use our pop-up form to present that subscription acquisition offer, these are all places where we want to make sure that our language around our offer that is focused on someone starting a subscription is very clearly presented. All right, now pro tip here. You absolutely need to simplify your subscription offer. And then once you simplify it again. The rule of thumb that I have is if a 10-year-old cannot understand how to save the amount that you're telling them they can save, then your offer structure is too complicated. So time and time again, I'll see different offer structures that are something like save up to 50% on your first order. But then when they get the product page, they see subscribe and save for 20 20% off. And they don't realize that they need to combine that with the code of an additional 30% off. And that's only applicable on the first order. And there's just a lot of like variables in place that are going to make it tricky. So I'll show you a really good example in a second of how to make it bulletproof so that it is extremely clear to understand. And the main takeaway here is if your offer is complicated and it's not as simple as can be, you are losing out on people starting a subscription. All right, now because most brands that I audit or most brands that we start working with have a one-time purchase offer in place, like a sign up and get 10% off your first order in their pop-up form, it is a very good opportunity to run an A/B testing a one-time purchase offer versus a subscription offer. The great thing about a subscription offer is that you can use a bigger discount, like 20% off your first subscription order instead of 10% off your first just one-time purchase order, because you know that there is higher LTV and a higher repeat purchase rate built into someone who is starting a subscription. So you can run this as an A/B test where you'll simply have two variations of your pop-up form and then two branches of your welcome series across email and SMS tailored to the form with the offer that people submitted. And then in order to pick a winner, so which one should you actually proceed with, one-time purchase offer or subscription offer, analyze new prospect subscriber to first purchase conversion rates, as well as subscriptions started on first orders. So I put together an example here of the data that you're going to be likely to see if you set up this A/B test properly. So scenario A is a pop-up form and potentially landing page offers with a one-time purchase offer for 10% off your first order. Scenario B is 20% off your first subscription order. In this A/B test, site traffic is going to be 50-50. So each of these pop-up forms were seen by 100,000 visitors. The one-time purchase offer form had a 12% opt-in rate, and then the subscription offer form had a 15% opt-in rate. And you can and should expect your subscription offer opt-in rate to be higher because people are so attracted to that number. 20% is bigger than 10%, so it's going to naturally have a bigger opt-in rate. So from these two forms, in scenario A, we had 12,000 new email subscribers, and in scenario B, we had 15,000 new subscribers. The next thing we're going to need to look at is, of the new email subscribers that we picked up, how many converted within the first 30 days. So over the first 30 days, we're going to be communicating these offers in our welcome flows. And what is natural for you to see is a higher conversion rate on the one-time purchase offer compared to the subscription offer, because naturally people are more likely to place their first order ever without wanting to start a subscription. So in the scenario, it's 4% versus 2%. And what that means is that after 30 days, we generated 480 customers. And in scenario B, we generated 300 new customers. The next thing that we're going to look at is the 90-day LTV from each of these cohorts. And what is natural for you to see here is a higher 90-day LTV and a higher 90-day repeat purchase rate from the cohort that took you up on the subscription offer versus the one-time purchase offer. So finally, we're going to get to the total cohort revenue here. And in this example scenario, even though we converted 180 more customers with our one-time purchase offer, because the LTV was significantly higher because we got a lot more customers on subscription, we ended up with more revenue after 90 days from the subscription cohort. And while this is just example data, this is representative of what we've seen in the past. And when you zoom out to 180 days, 365 days, this number stays pretty much static with the purchase offer cohort. But this cohort of customers who are going to stay on subscription for longer is going to expand at a more rapid rate. So if you have not tested this and have just made the assumption that your brand is going to offer 10% off everyone's first order, regardless if it's subscription or not, in your pop-up form, then this is an extremely high leverage A/B test for you to run. Now, what are the two offer types that convert very well on cold traffic for converting them into a subscription purchase? So this is going to be an enhanced subscribe and save discount. So if everyone who's landing on your landing pages, your product pages, sees that your standard subscribe and save offer is 20%, then you want to have a higher percentage off for a new email subscriber's first subscription order. So we're still in pop-up form territory here, and we're still in new email and SMS subscriber acquisition. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know how important it is to optimize your pop-up forms, because it makes each dollar that you're spending on paid ads go 10 times further by being able to own those subscribers' contact information now via email and SMS compared to retargeting ads. So that's option number one, a better subscribe and save offer. And one example of how a brand is doing this very well here is Grunz, but they are completely burying their one-time purchase offer. And this is an example that every brand should see because the entire emphasis is on subscription. This is a brand who understands how much of their growth and their enterprise value you is tied to growing their subscription program, and they do not want you to place a one-time purchase order. So if they don't want you to place a one-time purchase order, why are they even going to mention it? Why are they going to push you towards it? And this is the fundamental difference between brands that have scaling subscription programs and brands that don't. Where you guide someone is where they're naturally going to end up. So this is what happens when you click on an ad from Grunz and you end up on their landing page. What you're going to see here is you're going to choose your flavor, low sugar, one person, and then you have your subscribe and save quantities. And like I said, they're completely burying the one-time purchase, where all they're showing you up here is the subscribe and save options. And then below in tiny writing, they're showing, or you can have a one-time purchase for $64. Right here, they're showing you, you can get this for $48, $44. So over here, they are showing you that it is 40% off if you get a 4-week supply, or 43% off if you get a 12-week supply. But then for new site traffic who's coming from their ads, here's what they're going to see. They're going to get a pop-up form, and this is their real acquisition offer for email subscribers and for subscription. Here, it's letting them know you've got 52% off. But this is only applicable, the only way that you can actually save 52% off is with their subscription offer. So they do a really good job here. Once I submit this form, I get an email that says, take 52% off your first purchase. Use code SURPRISE to get up to 52% off. And here's where they are communicating this very, very clearly. How can I get 52% off? Want a taste? Take 52% off, claim my discount. When I click on this claim my discount button, and this actually happens at the end of the pop-up form too, they have a dedicated landing page that they send me to that says exclusive deals for email and SMS subscribers only. You found our secret page, save up to 52% today. So now they got me to convert on becoming an email subscriber from cold traffic, which is very advantageous to them because now I'm getting bombarded with emails every day. And now for me, I can see extremely clearly that I can save 49%, which is better than their standard offer, or 52% if I get the auto ship and save for 52 people. And again, over here on this landing page, you can see that the one-time purchase is buried. They're not even showing the percentage off, but this is not 52% off. The only way that I can save 52% off super clearly is if I start this subscription. So this is just an excellent example of how to use a subscription offer to get people on board and join your email list, and then drive a subscription conversion compared to a one-time purchase. All right, so that's an enhanced discount example. Now, another example that works really well is a free product bundle. So a lot of brands use like welcome kit language. Athletic Greens is one of them. So a free product bundle is essentially where you're going to tell subscribers and customers that you can get a free product with your first subscription order. And this is going to add a lot of extra value beyond the usual discount. So if you have a standard subscribe and save 20% offer, then in your pop-up form, you can let them know that they can sign up to get a free product or a free welcome kit, which is what Athletic Greens does, with their first subscription order. And you can see exactly how Athletic Greens positions this here, which is you are getting the standard pouch 30-day supply, and you're getting our subscribe and save offer on it. And then for your first subscription order, you're getting the welcome kit with a $28 value. So canister, scoop, and a shaker completely free. And you're also getting 3 travel packs, which is worth $15, but you're getting that free as well. And this is what they are positioning as their acquisition offer. So Athletic Greens, just like Grunz, and just like your brand should look at things, does not want you to place a one-time purchase order. It might be easier today to get you to place your first order with an offer on a one-time purchase, but they understand how the math plays out. They have run these scenarios and they understand how much higher that LTV is on subscription. All right, so once we've got new subscribers to join our list, how are we going to convert them? The first thing let's get into is our flows. I'm going to show you how to strategize your flows and build out your flows in a way that is congruent with building your subscription program as much as possible. So Klaviyo flows are the backbone of your subscription strategy. They work differently at each stage of customer journey, playing completely different roles in converting and retaining subscribers. So the converting part is going to be in our pre-purchase flows, and that is going to be where we are planting the seed for subscription before someone ever buys. So again, where you lead someone is where they're most likely to end up, and we need to be communicating and messaging about subscription outside of just the offer, which means educating on the benefits that come with starting a subscription and positioning subscription as part of the customer identity. So your customers have a problem that your product solves. What you need to be positioning is that they are going to have this problem next month, the month after that, every month in the future. So why would they only look to solve that problem today when they can solve it on an ongoing basis and never have to think about placing another order because they're going to get delivered and there's going to be savings involved and et cetera, et cetera. So that's the goal of our pre-purchase flows. And then in our post-purchase flows, we want to reinforce behaviors that are going to reduce churn. And you'll see exact examples of this in a minute. And the second thing that we absolutely have to do is make sure that we're segmenting our flows properly, branching them properly to make sure that we're sending the right messages to one-time purchase customers versus subscription customers. So too many subscription brands that I audit, even 8-figure subscription brands, have one set of flows for all customers who are placing orders. Maybe they'll exclude subscription customers from receiving some, but they don't have two completely different paths and branches and sequences of emails and SMS messages that each group receives to maximize the LTV that they're driving from each group. All right, so first up, we are talking our pre-purchase flows. And here's where we're planting the seeds for subscription success. So most pre-purchase, welcome, and abandonment flows focus solely on one-time purchases, and they're missing the chance to educate customers on the benefits of long-term use, like consistent results, convenience, and savings. And both stages here require intentional strategy to maximize lifetime value. And a pro tip here, so this is specifically when we're talking about abandonment flows and other pre-purchase flows that aren't the welcome series, is we want to make sure that we are segmenting and branching out our flows to talk to prospects versus existing customers differently. So we want to make sure even how we're positioning a subscription offer is going to be different from someone who has never tried the product before versus someone who has already bought from the brand, experienced the benefits, enjoyed the product, and has to be spoken to in a different way. So the two most important pre-purchase flows to get into are, number one, the welcome series. So in our welcome series, we want to make sure that we are promoting our subscription offer directly and highlighting the long-term benefits that customers are going to get, whether that is consistent energy, skincare results, or just daily habit building. So tying our product into their identity and their daily habits and making sure that those seeds are being planted to help them understand that this is a product that they need to incorporate into their daily life in order to achieve the results that they're looking for. And in one sentence, the most concise way I can say this is that you want to make sure you're positioning your subscription program as a whole as part of the solution to the customer's problem, not just a discount. So if their problem is that they have acne and they need your product in order to have clear skin, then your subscription, which is going to come every single month, is the solution. They shouldn't just be signing up for a subscription because it's 20% off. They should be signing up for a subscription because it's the long-term solution to their long-term problem. So that's the goal of the welcome series. And you can see just one example here from Grunz where they're basically saying, this is why you need our green bears. With a million supplements out there, why choose the Grunz? Easy, they're convenient, they taste good, and they actually do something. Go ahead and let them show you. And then they're saying, commit to a better health. Fill your nutrition gaps with complete nutrients that your body needs. And they're laying out exactly what you should be trying. And this messaging of commit to better health, they're not saying like, try this and see how much better you feel. They're positioning this as like, of course you are going to feel better when you fill the nutrition gaps that you know that you have. That's the problem. You have nutrition gaps. And psychologically, what happens when you position your brand and your products and your solution like this, it's extremely natural to think that, of course, I want to make this commitment. And of course, this is something that is not going to change within a month. So whether I use Grunz or not 6 months from now, I still at face value need these nutrients. So if you're telling me, along with everything else, the savings, the welcome kit, everything else that's going to come with your subscription, I can solve my problem for the long term, which I understand is a long-term problem, then this is an extremely effective way to convert customers. All right, so next up we have our abandonment flows. And within our abandonment flows, we're going to have our abandoned checkout, abandoned cart, browse abandonment. We're going to want to have a window shopper flow as well. So when we talk about abandonment flows here, this is what needs to be positioned within all of those. So prospects are going to get your first order offer. So if you are running a subscription offer as your first order offer, they're going to get up to 52% off. And existing customers who have placed orders before in their branch when they abandon a cart are going to see the standard subscription offer with messaging around the need for long-term use of the product and other subscription benefits. Like as an example, never forgetting to reorder. So similar to what we talked about in the welcome flow, really positioning subscription as the solution and accompanying that with the savings that are applicable to them is going to to work really well to convert people pre-purchase when they abandon a product at the cart level, checkout level, or just product page level. And here's an example from one of our clients, Kin Euphorics, co-founded by Bella Hadid, where this was the abandoned cart email for returning customers. So we said no kin left behind. This is where they would see the exact products pulled in dynamically in Klaviyo that they had abandoned. And then right underneath, we're letting them know that they can subscribe, save, and savor. Get more out of your kin experience when you subscribe and save. And in doing that, you're going to unlock 10% savings on every order. You're going to get free shipping always. You're going to get first access to new products, and you're going to get surprise gifts. So when someone's abandoning a cart, the reason for that could be savings or it could be other problems. And you just want to make sure you're throwing everything at them in terms of the benefits that are part of the solution of your subscription program in order to plug that. So this is the core idea and strategy that you need to incorporate in your pre-purchase flows. And one last thing to include here is you want to make sure you're thinking of your SMS messages along the same lines. So don't incorporate all the strategy into your emails and then have your SMS say like you just left something behind. Make sure that you are treating both channels, email and SMS, with the same level of strategic thinking here. All right, so once we get someone to place their first order, whether they convert from that email or SMS welcome series or our abandonment flows, now they're going to go into our post-purchase flows. So post-purchase is where our retention strategy is really going to start. Most brands do not segment these properly inside of Klaviyo, so they don't treat subscription customers very differently from regular customers. And if you send the same post-purchase sequence to both one-time purchase customers and subscription customers, you're missing the opportunity to reinforce the behaviors that are going to drive new subscriptions from one-time purchase customers and reduce churn from existing subscription customers. And another pro tip here is that within each of these flows for one-time purchase customers and subscription customers, you want to make sure that you are branching those flows for first-time customers who are either placing their first one-time purchase order or their first subscription order, and then repeat customers. So repeat one-time purchase customers, repeat subscription customers. So within Klaviyo and potentially your SMS platform as well, you're going to have to separate these into two distinct flows with two different triggers. So when someone places a one-time purchase order, that is going to come in as a placed order metric if you're on Shopify. And then if someone starts a new subscription, then that is going to be triggered by the started subscription metric in whatever subscription platform you're using, like Skio or Stay or anything else. So let's look at one-time purchase customers first here and look at what we can do to influence new subscriptions being started. So when a one-time purchase customer places their order, number one, we want to educate on the importance of continued use and make it clear to them that this is a problem that needs a solution constantly, and this is not a one-time band-aid fix that you're buying. We want to reintroduce a subscription offer with a really clear value proposition. So they didn't decide to start that subscription on their first order. We need to reintroduce it here, and we can do that through a new lens in understanding that they are now actively using the product, hopefully getting the benefits from it, and that is how we can position. And we can use that to frame our new value proposition, sales argument for why they should now start a subscription. And then lastly, there could be more here, but this definitely applies to every single subscription brand. We want to make sure we're emphasizing consistency of using the product, savings when you start a subscription, and then convenience, as in you do not have to remember to reorder this every month, and you won't run the risk of forgetting and having that solution go away. So here's an example from Feel Goods. They are a long-term client of ours, and they're in the health and wellness space. And right away, we're getting into defining that Feel Goods needs to become part of your daily habit. There's no bad time to get your daily dose of Feel Goods. In the morning, start your day with a glass of immune-boosting vitamins. At lunch, sip on Gut Guardian right before a meal to ease digestion. Post-workout, quench and replenish before, during, and after exercise. So no matter what product you bought, number one, this is reinforcing when you might want to take it. And then number two, it's also just positioning the other SKUs that they have as solutions to other problems that you might have. And then right below, we're talking about consistency, which includes a review, which is specific to how this verified customer's specific problem was solved through consistently taking it every day. So there's a time delay between email 1 and email number 2. And at this point, we are confident that this new customer is enjoying the product. They are getting the benefit out of it. And because it is consumable and replenishable, they are going to need more if they are going to continue having their problem solved. So we are very clearly saying to them, at this crossroads, the choice is yours. Commit to the habit and keep swinging up that health curve, or go right back to feeling like you did before you found us. We'll make the decision easy. New subscribers get 20% off their first 2 months of goods. After that, you'll still get a 15% discount on every shipment. So we don't need to go out of our way and overly describe the solutions. And then right below, we're showing them all of the membership perks that they get when they start that subscription. Enjoy free shipping, instant 15% off every order, get automatic delivery, never lift a finger, never run out, get free subscriber exclusive gifts and treats, pause or swap anytime via your account. So we're just stacking value on top of value on top of value in terms of why they should start a subscription. And then we're also even proactively removing the objection of them thinking that this is going to be a forever commitment, because they could pause it or swap at any time. So these are good reference points for what your messaging can look like when that messaging is aligned with your goals for the brand, which at this point is getting someone to start a subscription. All right, so after someone does start a subscription, what are we communicating to these new subscription customers? So number one, they've started their subscription. We want to onboard these new subscribers into daily use habits. The number one thing that is going to reduce churn outside of what any email or text message can do is going to be having a great product and making sure that customers are actually consuming the product and getting the benefit out of it. So that's point number one. And then point number two is educating on subscription portal management. The other thing that can influence churn significantly at this point is customers not understanding all of the options that they have available to them in their portal. So you as a brand know that a customer doesn't need a cancel. They can change their frequency. They can add or remove products that they've subscribed to. They can pause for a month. But customers don't know all of that. So their gut reaction is, I just got my second subscription order and I still have half of the quantity from the last order. I'm going to go cancel. You can solve that by understanding that's the reality and proactively educating them on all of the different ways they can take advantage and manipulate the subscription program that is not churning and canceling. So we want to make sure that that is clearly communicated. And then if present, we want to highlight a rewards path for long-term retention. So if we look at Feelgoods now and their subscription post-purchase emails. So in our first email, we are welcoming people into becoming a subscriber. And then we are letting them know that they can sip their way. So health journeys are rarely linear. So you'll always have free reign over your subscription. Right away, letting them know they can pause, switch up your products, change your order frequency, or update your shipping details anytime. And just get them into the platform at this point where it's extremely unlikely that they churn, because they have literally just placed their order, to just navigate around and see what options are available to them. In email number 2, their membership is officially activated. So as a subscriber, we want to just reinforce all of the benefits that they're getting. So really make them feel great about all of the elements that they are now going to experience as a subscription customer. And then also, this is a good example of letting customers know about what is coming down the line. So why would I cancel my subscription if I know that I'm getting this sweet HydroSip bottle on my second order? I'm getting this free 8-pack travel sachets on my third order, et cetera, et cetera. And then in our third post-purchase email for subscription customers, here is where we are going to really reinforce the long-term benefits that subscription customers are going to have as long as they keep going. So this is exactly what you're going to experience if you continue consuming the product for this duration of time. So over 30 days, you're going to feel more quenched. Your performance at the gym is going to improve. At 60 days, your energy levels are spiking, experiencing less muscle cramping. At 90 days, brain fog is clearing up, getting fewer headaches. At 120 days, skin is more radiant and vitality is boosted from head to toe. So again, if I'm not experiencing all of these amazing benefits today, I'm not going to cancel my subscription order because I can see very clearly the path ahead. And then the last part of our messaging here, which is extremely underrated, is just letting customers know how they can make the most of these products. So some people, it could feel obvious, like just pour the sachet in a bottle of water and mix it. But if there are other ways for you to build a winning habit and get the most out of each of these mixes by having a different way in terms of when you should drink this, what you should pair it with, in terms of what you're actually eating with that meal, in terms of when you should take it, nighttime, daytime, all of these details, if they're going to ladder up to someone getting the benefits or not getting the benefits of the product, are super important to communicate to ensure that you're able to get them into that habit, into that ritual. All right, so the post-purchase flows are the most important flows here. Additional essential flows that you should have set up are your subscription win-back flow. So you want to make sure that you are re-engaging churn customers with compelling reasons to start their subscription. And then a flow for upcoming renewal reminders. So you want to make sure that you're setting expectations and reducing churn by reminding customers before their next charge. This goes a long way in reducing churn. So these are 2 more essential flows, but there is so much more to be done on the automated flow side of things. So basically, the pro tip here is you want to make sure you're leveraging all of the platform triggers for your Klaviyo flows and for your SMS platform flows. You want to make sure you're also designing these flows in Figma and sending them through Klaviyo for a seamless branded customer experience. So there's two things to note here. So right here, we have our example events from Skio. Now, these are from Skio, but these are going to look relatively the same, whether you're using Recharge or Stay or Loop or any other subscription platform. And you've probably seen these before, you probably know about them, but I could count on one hand how many 8-figure brands I've audited that are actually taking advantage of these flows in a way that's going to influence their MRR and their churn positively. So the metrics that we have here, just examples, I'm not going to run through all of them: billing reminder notification, billing attempt failed, new subscription created, subscription canceled. Basically every action that can occur within a subscription program creates an event, and that event gets synced into Klaviyo. So what that means is any of these events can be used as triggers or a flow in Klaviyo. So when there's a card expiration notification, this can trigger a Klaviyo flow that includes messaging to let customers know that they need to update their credit card on file. Another example here, so when someone pauses their subscription within the portal, this can and should be used to trigger a flow in Klaviyo with relevant follow-up messaging to get them to reactivate and unpause their subscription. So there are use cases for almost every single one of these metrics to be used as Klaviyo triggered flows. And if you're thinking that we already have automated messaging that is triggered by all of these subscriptions, but it's coming from Skio or it's coming from Recharge, coming from within the platform, the reason why you want to design these in ideally Figma and then send them through Klaviyo is just so that you have an amazing branded customer experience at every touch point. It's just not ideal for brands that are scaling to have that very differentiated look and feel from one email to the next, and in categories that are very competitive, where a lot of the time it comes down to brand. There's just very little good reason to not take the additional step of making sure that each touch point is branded. The next pro tip here is understanding all of the properties that are accessible through Klaviyo in order to personalize your email and SMS content, create necessary segments, and branch your flows as needed. So essentially, within each of these events, there are properties that you can access. So as an example, when someone's subscription is renewed for another month, the properties within that event are going to be their active subscription count, active subscriptions, cycles completed. So essentially you can see all the properties and descriptions over here. Same thing applies no matter what platform you're using. So let's say we want to create a segment to either send a campaign to or trigger a flow with based on what cycle someone's at. So if someone gets a free gift on order number 4, we would probably want to trigger a flow using cycles completed is 3. When it comes to email content, we can personalize the exact products that we're showing someone to cross-sell them using the exact items that they have a subscription for. So over here, that's Skio subscribe product titles. We can see the product titles included in an active subscription. And this is where we want to say, okay, if someone started a subscription for our sleep product, then for that specific person, we want to make sure we're promoting our energy product. So out of every single subscription brand that I've ever worked with, and over 30 subscription brands that I've audited, I've never seen one of those brands have all of these properties be configured properly and optimally in order to have a well thought out customer lifecycle and customer journey that is speaking to each of these people at the right point in the journey in order to get them to take the actions that they want them to take. All right, so next up, we are talking campaigns. So how do campaigns differ from non-subscription brands and subscription brands? So once your flows are up and running, campaigns are where you're going to keep both your subscribers and non-subscribers engaged over time, which at this point, I'm sure that you're already doing. So first off, for subscription customers, you need to decide on the frequency and the types of content that you're going to be sending them. So we want to be conscientious of what content subscription customers would find valuable versus not valuable. Educational content is an example of valuable content. Promotions on products that they already have a subscription for is an example of not valuable content. You can essentially think of it as if this person does not need to place an order, that's not the point of this email. So this is a decision that's ultimately going to be made on a case-by-case, campaign-by-campaign basis, where you're just gonna have to evaluate, like, does a subscription customer get value out of this email? Next up, for subscription customers, we want to give them the VIP treatment. So we just want to make subscription as a whole feel like it is signing up to be part of a VIP members club. And what that means is you can treat promotional opportunities as VIP moments. So you can give subscription customers early access or subscriber only deals to make them feel valued. And that perfectly ties into point number 3 here, which is using quick action links in your campaigns. So you want to include links that let your subscription customers add products to their next order without going back into their portal. So if there's a way to get them to buy without going into the portal, where they are going to be a few clicks away from changing their frequency, from canceling their subscription. We do want to do that, and quick action links are the solution to that. And then on the customer's end, it's also extremely efficient for them to just click one button and have another product add to their next order instead of having to go through the standard checkout flow again. So it does make them feel like a VIP by just having a really seamless process. So that's how you're going to want to think about optimizing the campaigns that you do send to subscription customers. For non-subscription customers, you want to make sure that you're consistently reminding them about your subscription offering and about the benefits that come along with becoming a subscriber and the savings that they're going to get with that. Here's an example from Nekohama, a long-term client of ours in the premium matcha space. And essentially you can see like this is a very evergreen campaign where their co-founder is talking about how she's staying cozy this season. There is a CTA to go shop at Nekohama Matcha. And then you have her cozy season checklist. And then at the bottom here, if this is overall an engaging campaign that someone is interested in, we can also just remind them that they can start a subscription and get 20% off their monthly matcha delivery. So for those customers that do look for discounts and they want to wait until there's a discount to shop, now you have a permanent discount that is available for them to take advantage of. Now, a major pro tip here that will put you ahead of 99% of brands is using dynamic content blocks to automatically show personalized subscription reminders inside of your evergreen campaigns. And this also allows for specific offers to specific segments, which can enhance subscription purchases. So if we take this campaign again as an example, not everyone needs to see this reminder. So of course, if someone's already a subscription customer, this being a dynamic content block only showing to prospects, only showing to one-time purchase customers is going to avoid showing subscription customers something that is not relevant to them. And just a bit more on quick action links here. So I just pulled these examples in of quick action links and different actions that are offered by Skio, but there are different actions based on the different platforms that you are using, just so that you can understand all of the different types of things that you can do with one quick action link that's tied to one CTA button in your campaign. So all of these actions can be taken by a subscription customer without them having to go into their portal at all. So there's a ton of applications for how you can use these that you're probably not using right now and that even the top brands are not using. But this is a really easy opportunity to generate incremental revenue and reduce churn if these are used in the right context. All right, so we talked about our pop-up forms, we talked about flows, and we talked about campaigns. Now let's talk about reporting and how we're actually optimizing our lifecycle marketing in order to optimize our subscription metrics. So here's an example of a subscription client of ours that's been a client for over 2 years, and the data from their subscription portal from March of 2025. So the first thing that we want to look at every month is overall subscription revenue performance. So in that vein, we can see the total subscription revenue that they have, checkout subscription revenue, recurring subscription revenue, and total add-on revenue. This is taken from the Stay subscription platform, but you're gonna have access to these analytics no matter what platform you're using. So the first thing that we notice when we're looking at March of 2025 is that total subscription revenue is down by 19%. Now, the obvious question that everyone should have when you're looking at all of your metrics is, why is this metric up? Why is this metric down? If you don't understand the why behind it, then there's really nothing you can do to influence it in the way that you want to. So why is subscription revenue down significantly? Number one, total subscription revenue is a product of subscription orders multiplied by average subscription revenue. And the average subscription revenue was $53.17. Now, in this example from March, subscription orders were down significantly, while average subscription revenue was down very marginally. So we can see that compared to the previous month, we went from 65.16 to 53.61, which is a big jump down. So there were less subscription orders overall, but the average subscription revenue basically stayed flat. So the problem here is actually that subscription orders went down significantly. So the big story is that total subscription orders went down, which leads to the next question of, was this caused by new subscriptions being started at checkout being down significantly? Or is it because recurring subscriptions were down significantly, which is also a way of saying there was high churn? So total subscription orders are made up of checkout subscription orders, people who are placing a subscription order for the first time. And then it's plus recurring subscription orders, which were started before this month. So in order to answer that question, let's look at checkout subscription revenue first. So in this example, checkout subscription revenue was down by 13%. Checkout subscription revenue, to make sure we understand how this works, is a product of checkout subscription orders multiplied by average subscription revenue, which we can see right here. In this example, checkout subscription orders in March were down significantly, So we can see that they were down from $14.44 to $12.93, while average subscription revenue again was down very marginally, $58.85 to $56.92. And this was a flag that maybe we should look into why this was down around 2%, which isn't a ton, but it is worth noting. So let's take a look at things that can influence lower checkout subscription orders in general. Why could these checkout subscription orders have been down month over month? So number one, there could have just been less site traffic. So if paid ad spend was down and there was less site traffic, that would have led to less possible conversions. If there was a change in the subscription offer, that could have influenced how many people were starting new checkouts and placing new subscription orders. And then there's seasonality. So maybe at the beginning of the year, if it's a health product, let's say, there's just more organic demand in January and February. And then as the year goes on, that could dwindle down. When it comes to specific things that can influence this related to email and SMS, number one, there's how often we're communicating subscription compared to a one-time purchase in our campaigns. So if the previous month we had CTAs to start a subscription in every one of our campaigns, and then in March, we did not include any CTAs to start a subscription, that could absolutely play a role in driving less new subscriptions. And there's also how we're communicating the subscription offer in flows. So in our welcome flow, post-purchase, replenishment, win-back, abandonment flows, is there any changes to how this was being communicated? Now, the next thing we have here is recurring subscription revenue was down 21% month over month. So recurring subscription revenue is a product of the amount of recurring subscription orders that we have multiplied by the average recurring subscription revenue. In this example, recurring subscription orders in March were down significantly, while again, average subscription revenue was down marginally. So we can see that we lost just around 1,000 recurring subscriptions month over month. So why could that have been? So recurring subscription orders being down significantly means that there was really high churn within the last month, which leads to the next question. Why was there high churn? So potential reasons for why there could have been high churn is we're going to want to look at our cohort analysis for context to understand which cohorts churn is coming from. So one example here is if new subscriber acquisition was very high from 6 months ago to 3 months ago and has slowed down in the last 3 months, then this would be a flag that churn percentage hasn't necessarily increased, but rather there is just more churn from older cohorts. This would flag that churn percentage hasn't really increased necessarily, but rather there's just way more churn from older cohorts than new cohorts' active subscriptions can keep up. And in another example, let's say 2 months ago, there was a very good offer on subscriptions. So acquisition was higher than normal, but many subs canceled after getting the initial subscribe and save offer. So we want to make sure we always have the context about where we're at in terms of those cohorts. And then in terms of things that can influence churn related to email and SMS, how often are we sending campaigns to active subscription customers? What type of content is being sent to subscription customers that might get them to churn? Post-purchase flows for subscription customers. Did we build something out that is now resulting in a different experience for them? If or how we're communicating about offers and upcoming orders. So let's say between order 2 and order 3 that they're going to get a specific offer on order 3. If we build that in, if we change it, remove it, that can definitely influence churn. Now, the last piece of the puzzle here is total add-on revenue. So total add-on revenue is going to be how much revenue did we pick up from existing subscription customers who added on other items to their current subscription. And here we can see that's up 82%. And what's actually going to influence that as it relates to email and SMS? So that's going to be campaigns that feature add-ons, ideally using quick action links. And then similarly, any email and SMS flows that feature those add-on quick action links too. So next up, we're going to want to look at our active subscriber trend. So how are we trending in terms of total active subscribers that the brand has? The only key insight that we really pulled out in terms of March is just looking at the last 3 months, we were trending down from a high of 7.1K in January to a low of 5.4K at the end of March. So we are trending down over the last several months. And this is just a checkpoint where we need to check in every month to understand how we're trending, whether there are serious changes that need to be made. Next up, we want to make sure we're looking at subscriber status performance. And specifically what we want to be looking at here are how many new subscribers did we gain in the past month? How many subscribers were reactivated? And reactivations can be influenced by email or SMS subscription win-back flows and campaigns. And then importantly, how many subscribers churn. So in March, in this example, churn was outpacing new subscribers in March. And this really should not happen for a healthy, growing subscription business. So we want to figure out very quickly, why are we churning more subscribers than we are gaining? The next thing we look at are customer portal interactions. So is there any big change in how customers are interacting with the portal. And the goal here is really just to look for outliers. So anything that is really changing heavily month over month. In terms of insights that we pull out of March here for this client, lost subscriptions due to failed payments were down 17%, which can be a huge win. So this can be influenced by email or SMS dunning flows when someone's credit card fails. And customers changing their next order date was down 26%, which is also great. This can be influenced by email or SMS post-subscription and replenishment flows to let customers know they can get their order sooner or move it instead of canceling. So if we can get someone to change the next order date instead of canceling, that is a huge win. The next thing we want to look at is our 12-month cohort analysis. So the key insights here, when we looked at our cohort analysis in March, there was extremely strong month 2 retention from our February 2025 cohort. So when we look at month 2, we can see that we hit 74% retention, which is much higher than any other period in the last 12 months. Now, it's really important that we actually understand why subscribers in a given cohort are going to have very different churn levels than new subscribers from a different cohort. So over here, I put together a cohort retention dynamics explainer, which is basically examples of things that could influence churn on a specific cohort. So I'm going to just skip over here for 1 second. I'm not going to go through all of this because I could talk about it for an hour and this could be an entirely different episode. But at a high level, this is what you should understand in terms of what could influence churn on a specific cohort. So number 1, it could be paid media or acquisition related. So fundamentally, when you bring people in with a different discount, you can attract different people who are going to be just different types of customers who will stay with the brand for different amounts of time. There could be product or fulfillment issues. So as an example, if there are inventory shortages or fulfillment delays, that can frustrate new subscribers and influence churn. You could have quality control issues. There could be subscription defaulting, issues with shipping and logistics. So if like delivery times are very delayed, like that can definitely erode trust and lead to higher churn for people in that cohort. The offer structure and like how that is actually presented to new subscribers. So if things are confusing for them, if you're changing the intro offer, like these are all different ways that someone could just fundamentally have a different experience starting a subscription. That's essentially going to change how they decide to end it. Having specific lifecycle marketing flows in place or not having them. So if you're missing flows that just fail to educate customers on product benefits, usage, really build out that habit, that is going to influence churn. Seasonal factors. So it is very possible that in January, you're going to have health kick buyers with high intent, but short-lived commitment compared to June. So people who are in the January cohort would be expected to have higher churn. Black Friday, Cyber Monday buyers is also a really interesting cohort for every brand where people are coming in and they're just sales shoppers. So they are typically going to churn faster. There could be website or tech issues. So like landing page messaging that doesn't align with the site experience. This is something I've seen before. It can happen. And it can also be product market fit for new SKUs. So if you're launching a new product and it's not meeting customer expectations, that could influence churn too. Ultimately, there are so many things that can influence churn. And it's just really, really important to actually understand what those reasons could be in order to fix the underlying issues that are causing churn in the first place. Because no email or SMS in the world is going to stop someone from churning if they had a terrible experience after they placed an order and didn't receive their product for 30 days. Next up, we want to make sure we're paying attention to in-platform subscription churn reduction. So here's where we're looking at how many people churned and why did they churn. So key insight from March is our subscription save rate was actually up 31%. So why is that going to happen? That's going to be influenced by the exit survey and the recovery flow in place. So when someone goes to cancel their subscription, every platform is going to have the capability to basically show them an exit survey, figure out why they want to churn, and proactively give them an offer to keep them on board. So this has a huge influence on reducing churn. And this is a great insight that was able to be pulled from March, which is that we improved our save rate by 31%. So what a recovery flow could look like within your platform is if someone's going through the survey and their cancellation reason was, I didn't enjoy the taste, then you can have an offer that's tied to trying another flavor in their next order. If the cancellation reason is the product did not work for me, then we want to make sure we're communicating the benefits that are typically seen after X number of months and give them an offer on their next order. And this is where email and SMS come into play, because even if you do communicate this in the platform, you do want to make sure you're following up and speaking to the specific reasons why they canceled. Now, the next thing that we do with every single one of our partners who is a subscription brand every single month is we look at the top performing email and SMS campaigns that drove the most new subscriptions. And if you are a brand that really wants to place a lot of importance on growing your subscription revenue, then you have to be looking at what is actually influencing people to start a subscription. Because if you just look at like top revenue generating campaigns, which are going to be overweighted on the one-time purchase revenue side of things, then you're not going to be able to figure out what is driving people in this direction. And just like the rest of our reporting process, our strategy at Dispatch is test new angles every month, double down on what works, cut out what's not working, and then repeat that process every single month. And in the same vein, we look at email and SMS flow performance every single month. So we want to make sure we're identifying how many new subscriptions were started from each of our core flows. And when there is a huge drop off at a certain point, we want to use that as a flag to understand why that is and what can be done to fix it. So the reality is you probably have a team because you've scaled your brand this far. You might even have someone who is owning email and SMS full time, but implementing everything that I just talked about systematically in a way that's actually going to work properly and improve upon itself every single month just requires someone with the expertise who has done it before at scale. If you're doing more than $5 million in annual revenue and you want hands-on strategic work done by actual experts who have done this before, at Dispatch, we take on a couple of clients every quarter and are laser focused on driving as much incremental revenue as we possibly can with, as you know now, a specific system for how we do this for subscription brands specifically. There's so much more that we do that our partners benefit from every day. So if you're interested, I'm going to include a link in the description for you to book a call. We will walk through your entire setup and show you exactly where the biggest opportunities are for your brand specifically today. But even if you aren't ready to work with us yet, pick one lever from this course and actually focus on improving the metrics that you know are going to trickle down to your bottom line more than anything else. By the way, if you want to grab this entire document for yourself so you can come back and refer to it later, I'm going to include the link in the description so you can just go get it for free. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.